All right, so this is chapter 4. So chapter 4 is all about fractions. So we just dealt with decimals. Now we're going to move into fractions. So if you look on page 253, I should have started out here from the get-go. Okay, we're going to be multiplying and dividing fractions. That's what this entire chapter is about. Okay, so the goal is we're going to be able to multiply and divide fractions by the end of this. So back on page 265, we're skipping right into lesson 2. We're not doing lesson 1. So on page 265, if I can get it down there, okay, we're working on lesson 2, which is multiply fractions in whole numbers. All right, so starting with the vocabulary startup, it says a commuter train travels back and forth but does not change the distance traveled. In mathematics, operations that follow the commutative property can be performed in any order. For example, addition and multiplication are commutative. So it says draw a line to commutative for the examples that can be done in either order. It says draw a line to not commutative if the order changes the outcome. So if we do 12 divided by 6 and 6 divided by 12, those are two different answers because 12 divided by 6 is 2, 6 divided by 12 is 1/2. So that is not commutative. Those are two different answers. Now, tying your left shoe and then tying your right shoe. Does the order matter on that? No, because you're still getting the same outcome. Your shoes are just going to be tied. Now, the next one is 5 times 7, 7 times 5. So 5 times 7 is 35, 7 times 5 is 35. So the order changed, but the answer didn't change, so that means it's commutative. Okay, so then the next one is, it says play a soccer game and then change into your team uniform. So clearly the order matters there because you're not going to go to your game and then decide to change in your uniform. So that is not commutative. And then 15 plus 5 and 5 plus 15, you're going to get 20 for both, but the order changed, so you still get the same answer. So commutative means that basically you can perform it in any order and you still get the same outcome. Like this one, you tie your left shoe and then you go to tie your right shoe. Well, your shoes are still tied. It didn't matter the order you tied your shoes in. So that's just like multiplication and addition. It doesn't matter which way you multiply or which way you add, you're still going to get the same answer. All right, so jumping down to the real world link, it says some morning routines can be done in any order. Sometimes the order matters. It says describe a situation when the order you perform two actions is important. Okay, how about when you guys are getting ready for school, when we go back to normal? This is not normal, I get that. But let's say, okay, so you wake up and then so when order matters, so morning routine, taking a shower and getting dressed. Clearly, you're not going to get dressed before you get in the shower. Okay, that just kind of defeats the purpose of the entire shower. So this is when order matters. That's what they're talking about. So like something that wouldn't matter would be if you went down and you decided to tie your shoes before leaving out like I said before, just tying your shoes. It just depends on, it doesn't matter which order you tie your shoes in. Okay, another one would have been like when order matters. Clearly, you're going to put your socks on before you put your shoes on. That's what I'm talking about when order matters, because you're not going to put your shoes on and then put your socks on. It doesn't make sense. Okay, so let's go on to the next page. So we're going to start off with multiplying a whole number by a fraction. So we're going to get 5 times 3/4. Okay, when you're doing this, remember, all whole numbers can be changed into a fraction over 1. So if we look at example number 1 here, we have 2 times 2/5. Okay, you can use a model. They show it here. So they decided to show that they have 5 squares on this one and then 2 are shaded, but there's 2 columns because it's 2 times 2/5. So if you want to use the model method, go right ahead. You're not going to break my heart. Go right ahead. If you can do it this way, that is fine. I prefer the equation way, especially when we start getting into solving equations. This is when this is going to start coming into play. So when you have something like 2 times 2/5, all right, Remember, you need to make this into a fraction. And since it's a whole number, all whole numbers go over 1. So 2 over 1 times 2 over 5. Now when you multiply fractions, all you're doing is multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, and there's your answer, unless you have to simplify. So we're going to do 2 times 2, which is 4. That's our numerator. That's what goes on top. And then 1 times 5. That's 5. 4/5. You're done. That's all there is when you multiply fractions, guys. All right. So let's jump over and do a couple more examples like this. So on page 269, we're going to do number 1 at the top. So it says 20 times 3/4. So 20 over 1 times 3 over 4. Because I always said all whole numbers go over 1 in a fraction. Okay. So there's a couple ways of doing this. So one way is to actually just multiply this out, and another way is to simplify before you multiply. What I mean by that, when you're looking, since we have this multiplication here, the symbol, okay, we want to look at the ones diagonally across from each other. So 1 and 3. Okay, can I simplify anything like that, like a fraction? No, because we have a 1. 1's already simplified all the way out. 3's a prime, so we can't go any further. But now I can look at 20 and 4. Well, I know that 4 goes into 20. So I can divide a 4 out of both of these. So I'm going to divide a 4 here. I'm going to divide a 4 there. So this becomes 1. That becomes 5. So now I have 5 over 1 times 3 over 1. Now I can multiply and make this a lot easier. You're just saving your last step before you simplify. It just saves you a little bit of time if you do it this way. So 5 times 3 is 15. 1 times 1 is 1. Well, 15 over 1 is just 15. Okay, and you don't have to simplify before you actually multiply this out. And I'll show you how that works. So like number 2 here, we have 14 over 1 times 2 over 7. So 14 times 2, because remember, I just multiplied the numerators. 14 times 2 is 28. And then 1 times 7 is 7. Well, this can be simplified. It can actually divide out. 28 divided by 7 is 4. So you don't have to simplify before you multiply. It just saves you a little bit of extra time that you just need to remember. You have to simplify at the very end because it calls for it in the directions. So you must simplify. So let's go back to page 266, and I want you guys to do A, B, and C at the bottom. So pause the video and do A, B, and C. And remember to simplify if necessary. So pause the video, I'll give you a little bit of time, come back, and then we'll go through these. All right, now that you're back, let's go ahead and do A, B, and C. So A was 6 times 2/3. Okay, so 6 over 1 times 2 over 3. Okay, well, if I just multiply this out, the numerators would be 6 times 2, well, that's 12, and then 1 times 3. Well, this can be simplified by doing division. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So your answer should be 4. Remember, guys, this fraction bar, all that means is division. We're actually dividing. Fractions are always division at the very end. So this part right here is division. Okay, letter B. We have 9 times 1/3. Well, 9 over 1, because all whole numbers go over 1 in a fraction, times 1 over 3. Okay, this one I can simplify before I multiply. And I just want to show you guys that trick again. So once again, you always look diagonally across. So like 1 and 1. They're diagonally across from each other. Okay, we can't simplify those. Okay, the next group would be 9 and 3. We can simplify those by dividing a 3 out. So I'm going to divide a 3 out. Okay, so I get 3 over 1 times 1 over 1. Well, 3 times 1 is 3. 1 times 1 is 1. So you just get 3 as an answer. Okay, letter C. 4 times 1/8. Okay, so 4 over 1 times 1 over 8. Okay, I'm just going to multiply this out. So 4 times 1 is 4. 1 times 8 is 8. Okay, if I look, that can be simplified by taking a 4. I'm going to divide a 4 out. So you get 1/2. So your answer should be 4, 3, and 1/2. Okay? All right, the next part of this, all I did now was just list a fraction first. So it's 3/5 times 4. Nothing changes. It's just the order changed. So you're still going to arrive, you're still just multiplying. So if we have 3/5 times 4, remember 4 goes over 1 in a fraction because all whole numbers go over that. But like I said before, you can use the model if you want to. That's totally up to you guys. I prefer this way. So I do 3/5 times 4 over 1. Okay, I'm going to multiply this out. 3 times 4, 12. 5 times 1, 5. Okay, we have a problem here because this is an improper fraction. Okay, you can leave it like this, but I prefer that you guys do this. So you're going to get 12/5, or now we change it into a mixed number. Remember, when you change this into a mixed number, all you're doing is looking to see how many times 5 goes into 12, and that's your whole number. Well, 5 goes into 12 2 times, and that's 10. Well, if we have 10, how many do we have left over if we take 10 of these away? Well, 2. And then you just keep the same denominator. So 12/5 or 2 2/5. Okay, both answers are correct. I will accept both. But sometimes you need to learn how to do the improper way and the mixed number way. I would really prefer, and I really like, if you guys put both answers. It's only going to make you guys better. Okay, so then example number 3, 1/4 times 5. Nothing changes, you're still just multiplying. Remember, we talked about how the commutative property means with multiplication and addition, all you're doing is just multiplying and you still get the same answer no matter the order. So then we put this over 1. Well, that's 1 times 5, 5. 4 times 1, that's 4. Okay, so we have another improper fraction, so we can leave it like that, or we know that 4 goes in there 1 time. If we take 4 away from that 5, we get 1 left over, and we got 1/4. So 1 1/4. Either answer works. So all you're doing this entire lesson is just multiplying fractions. Okay? So pause the video again. I want you guys down on 267. I want you to do D, E, and F. So pause the video, do D, E, and F, and then come back and we'll talk about these together. All right, now that you're back, letter D. We have 1/2 times 3. So 1/2 times 3 over 1. Okay, so I just multiply this out. I get 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 1 is 2. So we can leave it as 3/2, or I know that it's 1 1/2. All right, letter E, 2/5 times 4. 2/5 times 4 over 1. Okay, so 2 times 4, that's 8. 5 times 1 is 5, so we get 8 over 5, or 5, or not 5, sorry guys, 1 3/5. And letter F, 3/4 times 5 over 1. So we get 15 over 4, because we do 3 times 5 is 15. 4 times 1 is 4. So 15 over 4 is our improper fraction. Or we know that 4 goes into 15 3 times with 3 left over, and your 4 is your denominator. So that is how you multiply with fractions and whole numbers. Guys, all it is just set it up, multiply it out, and then simplify if you need to. If you get to an answer like one of these, you need to simplify. Okay, the IXLs will be out with this, so take your time. Okay, write these out. You can't. Most of these you cannot do in your head because you have to simplify at the end.